All right. So, I guess they call this the Living Legacy Project. Where did your great grandparents come from?
My great grandparents came from Germany, from Bensheim, Germany.
Both your grandparents?
Did they ever leave their homeland?
Let me go back on this other. As far as my grandfather's parents, I'm sure that was in Germany, but my grandmother's Schochner's grandparents, I'm not sure because her maiden name was maiden name was Delary. So France is real close to his borders Germany at a spot, and so I'm not exactly sure. I do have a what a history back, and I think it was on my grandmother's Delary's side, dating back way into the 14 whatever, but it's all in German and German script, and I mean, if you can read Luke's, I can't. But I've got got it going back to quite a ways, and especially quite a bit of our German ancestry, and especially on my grandmother or my mother's parents.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I kind of made it into a graph of the parents and the children and that. I can show it to you afterwards if you want.
And then, did they ever leave their homeland? So, as far as you know,
my grandfather did, but as far as my great grandparents, I do not know.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what they did for a living?
Not really. Are we still on the great grandparents?
We're still on the great grandparents.
No, I do not know. They had acreage in Germany, and they had animals, and I heard of a quarry, vineyards. How it went down, I'm not sure.
Uh-huh. And do you know how many brothers and sisters they had?
No, I do not know.
I couldn't do much of anything on this question, on these questions. How many children did they have?
Great grandparents?
Uh-huh.
I don't know exactly. I know had my grandfather, and the other ones had my grandmother. So I'm not sure on that at all.
What do you remember about your great grandparents?
Nothing. I never met them, and they, I'm sure, were passed away before I went back.
Multiple questions on the same thing. Nope, we're moving on. What do you remember about your grandparents?
Remember quite a bit on them. the first time I met my grandfather Shockner was here in America. He had come over with two of his sons, and grandmother Shockner, she stayed in Germany. And then my father came over later, but I met my grandfather in Portland. When he came into Portland, he lived around the Milwaukee area or Selwood area. And as far as my mother's parents, grandfather Trefford and grandmother Trefford, I met them when I went back to Germany the first time in 1952 to their golden wedding. And
Was that an anniversary?
yeah, their 50th wedding anniversary. And grandfather Trefford, he was a meter reader for the gas company. And grandma, she was a homebody.
How many brothers and sisters did they have?
I am not quite sure, because I believe Grandma Trefford had two sisters, I believe. I don't know of any brothers. Grandfather's brothers or sisters I do not know of any.
And do you know if their brothers and sisters had any children?
I'm sure they did, but I don't know of them.
Did anyone in these generations serve in the military?
In that generation, not to my knowledge.
And what type of education did they have?
That I could not tell you. I know they have pretty good education, and mostly it's an apprenticeship as far as the boys are concerned, and the girls usually worked at a shop or just home type thing.
What stories did your parents tell you about them?
No real stories, except that, they came, on the Shockner side, they came over to America because of the times in Germany, and then as far as the Trefford side, no real stories, but like I say, in 1952 I met them and had a grand time over there.
And where did your parents live while they were growing up?
They lived in Bensheim, Germany.
What schools did they attend?
The regular,
I know Grandma had nuns.
the regular schooling is all that I know. And then later on, sure they worked at different shops and that. But they did, like I say, they did a lot of growing their own things, raising their some livestock, that type of thing, and also tending vineyards and that.
How did your parents meet?
I am not sure. I believe they met maybe at schooling or maybe at the shop where they were working, because my parents, my dad worked at a comb factory where they made fancy combs for the women's hair and that. And I believe my mother worked there at one time too. And I believe she also did some sewing at one time. But how much of that I don't, how far she went, I don't know.
When and where did they get married?
They got married in Germany, and I would have to look at the date. I'm not familiar with the date.
Do you remember seeing any pictures of their wedding?
Yeah, well, I've seen. Yeah, they're in the
Family
picture albums.
Are there any customs or family traditions that have been passed down through the generations?
No, except family gatherings and celebrating the holidays. And that's all that I remember.
The
Nothing.
thing I can think of is the Christmas tree stand.
Oh yeah, well that is I wouldn't say it's a tradition,
Right.
but yeah. In fact, I have a photo of their, I believe it's their first Christmas tree in that stand.
And even though a lot of people did the same thing, I was always amazed with the candle holders on the tree too.
Yeah, I wished we still had some of those. I don't know where they went.
Oh.
There are a lot of things that went that I would love to have held on to.
Let's move on to your childhood. Where and when were you born?
Well, I was born in Portland, Oregon, in March 8, 1935. And at the Hahnemann Hospital, which is not there anymore, it reverted to the Holiday Park Hospital, where Grandma, or my mother, was there being in a rehab, and she fell out of the bed and broke her hip, and they transferred her to Emmanuel Hospital, where they did an operation on her hip, and she passed away on the table.
Emmanuel. It was
Emmanuel Hospital.
I don't think so. It was where one of the gals worked.
It was Emmanuel Hospital.
All right.
Let's see. So the question was, where and when were you born? And the next question is, what was it like there?
What? Where was
I
it?
think we're talking about the city you were born in.
well, the city was Portland, Oregon. And what was it like? It was a starting up city because of where we lived. We lived in the North End. And in fact, there were vacant lots all the way up to Bryant Street from our house. And my parents had goats and chickens and rabbits and raised, a lot of different vegetables and so.
What was the residence like that you lived in?
It was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. In fact, it did not have a foundation, which later my dad and my uncle Ludwig Hitz dug out and put a foundation under it. It did not have a garage. Later on, they built a garage from the lumber from the town of Vanport, which was flooded, and they built the garage, and I forget what year that was.
What were your parents like?
What were they like? They were hard-working European people that learned English and made their citizenship, and very hardworking and church-going Catholic people.
What were your favorite memories of them?
My favorite memories, I guess of my mother was when she would be working hard, worked at a cannery, worked at Sperry Flour Mill to start with, and then she worked at a cannery. My father, he worked. They had first started in Selwood at I believe it was a lumber outfit when my dad first came over. At that time, to be able to come over, they would have to have a sponsor and have to have a job waiting for them. And since my grandfather was here and his other 2 sons, they had a sponsor, and he had a job in the lumber mill. Later on, he had a job at Sperry Flour Mill, and where he had a back problem from lifting these sacks, and had to have an operation. In fact, he was really in a lot of pain for many months and trying different things to alleviate that pain. He'd lay on the floor. He finally went in to the hospital, had traction. That didn't work either, so finally had a back operation where they grafted in a bone, part of his bone, and that got him pain-free and able to walk good and function again. And as far as my mother, she liked to get together with the church ladies and also the German ladies group. There was quite a few different families around the Milwaukee and Selwood area from Germany, which they had gotten to know and to do things with each other. And the German ladies group was a very good functioning society.
What is the most important thing they taught you?
Oh, most important probably is to work hard and always working when I could. They were not really into education. It was more of a work-oriented.
Did you have any brothers or sisters?
I had a sister.
Your sister was?
Elsie Schrockner first, and then she married Norman Hermans. She became Elsie Hermans.
What was she like as a child?
I don't know exactly as a child. We were 10 years difference in age. She loved operatic music, and she was a worker too. She had gone through Commerce High School, and which was a business-oriented type education, and she worked at the
Auditorium.
the auditorium as usherette, and so she was able to attend a lot of the operas and operettas and that type of thing, which she definitely loved. And then she did work at Rio Motors, which at that time made school buses, or were the outlet for the school buses. And
what kind of things did you enjoy doing together?
with my sister, we really, because of our age difference, really weren't together. But she was great for anything. If I had a whim that I would like something, she would get it for me for Christmas, whatever, and because she was working.
What were you like as a child?
A little brat. I don't know. I think I was a pretty normal kid growing up, and went through Holy Redeemer grade school, 8 years, and then 4 years at Central Catholic High School. During that time, I believe the first things I was doing was naturally around the house with the animals that we had, the chickens, the rabbits. Don't remember anything with the goats anymore because we had finish them off.
You ate them.
But as a baby, I had to have goat's milk. I couldn't tolerate cow's milk.
Mm.
So that's, I believe, is the reason why we had the goats. But then the first thing after that was caddying at Columbia Edgewater Golf Course, and spent many a day out there packing clubs around. Usually $2 for an 18. And after that, paper route, Morning Oregonian. And after that, I worked down in the circulation department of the Oregonian for a couple of years. When I went to Germany in 1952, they had taken a picture, and we have it in the albums there, of myself pointing to the different maps going to Germany. Yeah.
As a child, did you have any pets?
Had a dog, yeah, usually Butch. It was a Cocker Spaniel. And we had a cat that mother had, and I didn't do much with the cat. But later on had another dog, was it was a type of retriever. I don't think she was pure, but loved to hunt. And I had gone out to the Hitz's farm when I was still in grade school, and that's when they had a dairy over out of Richfield, Washington. And that was always kind of interesting. I worked with the kids haying during the summer.
It's following me.
Yeah, that's why I don't have hearing aids in.